Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the study session of July 9th. Danielle, will you go roll call, please?
Yes, I will. Councilmember Lush.
Here.
Councilmember Stern. Here. Councilmember Gilmore.
Here.
Mayor Lisco.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Quinn. Here. Councilmember Sapp. Here. And Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome.
It doesn't say it on here, but we are going to add something to our agenda after our first C1, and that's going to be,
Mr. Mayor, we've received the preliminary design for the creative district Coda Street restriping, so we want to present that in front of council tonight for your discussion and review.
all right. Tonight, Public Works Director Jay Harris and Capital Project Manager Aaron Nix has information for us about advanced meter infrastructure AMI project.
Good evening, Council. Jay Harris, your Public Works Director. This is probably the third or fourth time I've given this presentation to Council. This project started probably 4 years ago when I first started here. And our meters are getting old. The system is, the meter reading systems comprise mostly of brass. And at that time, we had some ARPA funds that came in, those are COVID relief funds. And we were able to buy a bunch of meters, transmitters, and meter boxes so we could replace the components in the whole system, not realizing that the Texas Instrument chip that was in the transmitters was not being made for an extended period of time. So we put in the order for we finally got all the meters, got all the boxes, but the actual transmitter unit that sends the readings to our handheld data collector were not available. And so we just received those parts this February. So this has been a long project. And so Aaron started with us, he's been involved with it. And we had plans and specifications that were prepared. And we ripped into those and rewrote contracts and redid the specs and looked at this and looked at that. And got the thing out to bid Monday. The goal of any contract though is to accurately project the project to the contractor and to try to minimize risk to the city and change order costs and be fair to the contractor too. So in our opinion, we had a lot of people looking at it. We spent a lot of time on it. So there's about 3,500 meter assets that are being replaced with that project. So anyways, I'll go through this PowerPoint with you though, so I can explain what the whole system is and how it works. So AMI. So we're gonna have a system that when we get done with the contractor, assuming the bids come in as budgeted, and we'll talk about that in a bit. That we're gonna have a system that we can drive by with our cell phone with a little data collector connected to it. That we can pick up the readings as we drive by the neighborhood. The antennas broadcast in that mode. I don't know, we can be a block or two away and pick up a meter like over there. We're not going into people's yards anymore. We're not lifting the lids. We're not getting bit by dogs. All sorts of things happen. Very time-consuming process. At a minimum, it's taken one full-time person to read meters every month. And they write down numbers wrong or type them into the data collector, a current data collector wrong. So we gotta go back and get rereads, and it's a very arduous process. This will eliminate that. The meters also have another frequency that we can turn on for a central antenna based collection system, which we're not doing with this project. We're going to be doing it a year from now. What we want to do is get the handheld thing working well, and we have something we can fall back on. If the antenna system goes down, we can always go around with the handheld. People will be trained on it. Then in worst case, we can go open up every meter and look at the number on the dial. It's a digital number. So that's the fixed base system. So the existing system, you see the concrete boxes and these handy little doors that you can pick up to look at the meter to get the reading off of the dial. Our dials read in cubic feet, and anyways, older dials read in gallons, and it's messy work, and it's easy to mess these readings up on the meters. And you can see the data collector there. Next slide. So we also are doing another thing with the project. So at the meter, we have a service line from the water main. So it's typically a 3/4 inch or a 1 inch service to most of the residential meter. Then at the meter, there's another service line past the meter that goes to the house. We maintain the service line from the main line to the meter. The property owner maintains the one from the meter to the house. Because of Flint, Michigan and the copper and lead issues they have in their water system, there's a rule came out that by October 16th, we're gonna be required to do an inventory of all of our services in the system to see if they meet different lead copper standards. And so as part of this project, since we're picking up all the boxes, we're gonna be right there. We're gonna be able to see what each service is. Unfortunately, the dates aren't matching up well though, because I'm planning on awarding the contract with you folks in the, I think, second meeting in December, it's September, first meeting in September. We're not gonna have a lot of these, but the contractor gets out there, by the time he's done, we're gonna have a good inventory this way. There's other ways we can inventory the system. We know that all services installed after 1986 don't have any lead or lead solder and leaded joints and that sort of thing. So we can rule out a whole bunch of them. Then we have other ways to rule out. So we're going to do an initial inventory with a consultant is assisting us in getting this report to the state. And then every property owner needs to get notified of what their service is. And then we're gonna actually update the inventory once this project is done, which is, we have what, 300 working days on this project? So it's likely, sometime in February, something like that, they're probably gonna be done, maybe March. And it all depends on how many crews they bring out, right? If they bring out 2 or 3 crews, they might get 20, 30 meters done a day. If they bring out more, obviously the project will move forward quicker. So most people are going to see a letter from the city in November about what the status of the service lines are to their particular structure. And then we'd likely to be sending out an updated letter once we actually know. Our water folks are pretty confident that if there's any leaded joints, are called goosenecks that go to a galvanized pipe, that they're pretty confident that they're under 10 if there's any in the system. So anyways, we don't think we're going to have much of that going on here, but we want to actually physically get our eyes on it. And so this project is a great benefit to the lead copper rule. Next slide.
And we test the water though for lead.
Oh, yeah, yep. We're required, it's on a 2-year rotating basis that we have homes that were built prior to, I think the state health department has a bunch of rules. They're built before 1970. We have an inventory of those. We select certain ones in different neighborhoods. And then the property owner, we give them the test kit. Because you let the water cook in your pipes all night long, and the first flush in the morning, we want that sample. That's the one we want. So if anybody's concerned about their water quality, just run the faucet for a minute or, to flush it out. And that will take care of any issues. Most of the problems are actually the house piping, not on the service lines. The actual pipes and the walls are more of a problem with our type of system than the actual service lines. That a lot of houses that were built like in the 50s with copper pipes have a little bit of lead in the solder. And so it's always good to flush your water if you don't know the state of your pipes. If you have an older home and they haven't been replaced, it's a good idea to run your water. And you can also have your home tested too if you're worried about it. So our meter reading equipment and software is 15 years old. We actually fixed that we updated the meter reading equipment to go to the cell phones, and the software was updated in finance. So that's happened since my last presentation. And then I would say almost all of our meters are out of warranty right now. So Census has a good deal. They give us a 15-year warranty on our meters. They'll repair it at no cost, so you bring it back. So all these new iPearl meters that we're putting in, it's a good thing for us if we'll have a 15-year warranty on all of them.
Is that
And
15 from install or?
it's 15 from when they actually delivered or purchased, so we're eating into that right now, unfortunately, because we had to wait. Actually, I need to talk to them about that because I couldn't do anything until I had the transmitters. They're all sitting in a warehouse right now waiting to be installed. So Aaron, can you write that down? I want to check with Census and have them send us a note that it should be from the install date, you're right. Because they held us up, we didn't, yeah.
We started this before, pre-COVID, I believe, and budgeted, didn't we? And then,
No, it was
We got
during
lucky.
COVID. When I started, it was in the middle of COVID because I came to your meetings online from my house.
I remembered that I thought it was, we had a study session and it was a dream to do this, and then I thought we got some grant money for it. We
We got
well, no,
ARPA during
before
COVID.
ARPA. I thought we had some grant money for it as well, I thought,
I don't recall.
Yeah, that was before my
and then
time.
ARPA came along.
Okay, yeah, if that was happening, it might have started before I started, but
For the council's benefit though, the reason why the warranty is that length is the battery.
Yeah.
It's an internal battery that doesn't necessarily, doesn't.
yeah, no, you could replace them.
Well, you can
Well, I
now.
know you can in the transmitter and meter both, but usually at about 15 to 20 years. That asset needs to be replaced anyways, and on the brass meter, we have unknown meters of age out there. And so they need to be replaced, the meter boxes are really poor and it's hard to read in the box right now, that's why we're replacing all of them. Our employee costs will go up if we don't replace them. We got more meters, more things to read, right? And obviously we have a truck we drive around with and it sits there in idles. So, you know, if you ever buy a city vehicle with low miles on it, you don't know how many hours it sat there in idle. It's quadruple what the mileage is, right? So, anyways, the turbine style meters that we have right now, typically they read lower as they age. And so this is gonna help us in our unaccounted for water loss. So the state requires us on a rotating average of 3 years to stay under 10%. So I could have a 15 and an 8, and then hopefully that next number is like a 5 or a 4. It needs to get under 10, or else we have compliance issues and they make us do all sorts of things. The meter reading is a problem because if they're not reading correctly, we have our production meter coming out of the wells. We know what the readings are going out. We know what the readings are, what we sell. And then we know when we have line breaks, fire hydrant use, those sorts of things. We get some good estimates on that water consumed. There's still lost water in the system though. So this should take care of a piece of that. We have data errors by the meter reader right now. The customer only has one time a month information. That's all we get. We read it once. With the new system, when it's online with the antenna, you can get a reading anytime you want from your meter. It will show past history, all sorts of things. And the meter locations, our field staff has to know where all 3,800 of these meters are. Some of them are the easy spots, right? And so next slide. So the current reader meeting process, the utility billing gives us a list, and then there's 8 routes for the meter readers. And then we drive, walk to each meter, get the reading, enter it into this little handheld device. And then we take it back to the utility billing department, they download, they process the data. And then they have some error checking they do if there's high reads, low reads, 0 reads, we have to go back out, do all sorts of things. Then we have, the inaccuracy part of the meter, we're back out there a lot of the times. And then the bills are created and sent. So there's a utility billing analysis, couple meter readers, 2 customer service reps that take payments up there. And It takes about 2.5 weeks to read all the meters in the city, plus any additional time for rereads. Next slide. So with AMI, it will transmit the water to a database. This is when the actual fixed base system is in, the antenna. And the billing period is the same day every month, right? So we go out and it takes us a couple weeks to read them all. And so they're not all being read on the same day, right? And so the billing period is a little off, right? Everyone's bills are sent, but the period isn't quite right. That we're reading some meters, near the end of the month, but not at the end of the month, right? So this system will get us in the correct time epic for reading. And so then we just print and mail the bills, so we save a lot of steps. And then also the software sits there and looks at people that don't use any water, where the meter is broken. These are magnetic meters now. They don't have moving parts in there. They have some tamper software in there too, that if people try to tamper with them, the software sends us a signal. And then unusually high water consumption, like in the middle of the night, it will know, is that person using water in the middle of the night consistently? Not a big deal. But once in a blue moon, it's probably going to send a note. And if we have an email on the account, we can send them a notice or call them on the phone. And so it's likely we're going to catch a lot of leaks in houses. The toilet that runs constantly, the meter is always running, the software is all over that. So if you have leaks in your house, we're going to catch it and we're going to be sending you notes. Well, what that does is actually reduces consumption, right? And it saves the property owner money too. So the meters are reading a little low right now. We're going to get more accurate readings. The bills might go up a scant, but we're also going to have the opportunity to resolve issues for the property owner really soon for them and help them save water. One of our water goals that we adopted with the comprehensive plan was to reduce residential water use. I think it was by 10% in like a 6-year period or something like that. This will get us a long ways to meeting that goal, just this one step. Next slide. So here's the proposed system. That's what the transmitter looks like down the bottom. That's the iPearl meters. We're going to have that in most locations. And then that's what it looks like when they're done with the install. You're going to see a black box there though, that we're replacing all the meter boxes. And then you can see how you have the meter down below and then the transmitters on the lid. And then if you turn the lid over, I don't have a picture of that, but that's a flush mount puck in the lid. That top thing, that disc mounts flush, so it's not a tripping hazard. And then the fixed base antenna might be on our water reservoir, one of them. That's just a picture of someone else's. It might be also on a wood pole or something else next to the reservoir. That way we don't have attachments up there. Next slide. So benefits, 24/7 access to water use information. We can do real-time reading upstairs, so we can, if someone wants to close out their account, we can get the final reading and not have to call a staff member to go get the reading online. This will have your stored consumption history. We're probably going to set it to read every 2 hours, 3 hours, that sort of thing, just automatically. So you can see, 4 to 6 epics, during the daytime of snapshots of your day at your house. And we can change that setting. The more it sends, though, the more battery it uses. So there's sort of a fine line there. We're going to reduce water loss, like I was saying, and to meet state regulations. So there's the meters have a 20-year warranty on accuracy, and we don't have to go to the meters for much. We also have these Ally meters that we can put in. It's not the iPearl, and the Ally meters allow us to potentially shut someone off in the future. we're probably not even gonna use that aspect of the system right now. The other advantage of the Ally is it does pressure and temperature readings, which is very beneficial to us. So what will happen is, we're gonna put them around the system. And having that pressure reading where if it dips below a certain PSI, we're gonna get a call out, which means that there's a fire or a broken water line in the neighborhood. And we're gonna know right away on people's cell phone in the middle of the night and not wait for someone to report the water line break. These Ally meters in strategic locations around the city is gonna allow us to respond a lot quicker. But we don't have to enter people's property anymore. Obviously, we don't have a bunch of people running around. We're gonna save transportation costs and employee costs. That time, that pressure information's in there. And then we're gonna reallocate the meter reading people. We're gonna have a person that's becoming available to water line repairs and that sort of thing. To be more proactive on the system. And yeah, so that we had on the slide here, I said 1 per hour, 1 reading per hour. We're probably gonna set it to 1 every 2 hours to save battery. I need to talk to Census a little more about that. Then I don't want to drain the batteries in 10 years on that device. Because I don't have to go out and replace all those. It'd be a lot of work, right? Next slide. So, Aaron, why don't you go over these project costs?
So, a little bit with regard to just kind of background, as Jay mentioned, it's taken us a little bit of time to get our specifications in order, because candidly, what we received were not, I'm all about protecting the city and protecting staff, and you really have to identify in your specifications, processes and those kinds of things. Because a lot of people, a lot of jurisdictions have done some of this, there is no real standardized specs for that. So we have really taken a long, hard look in protecting our staff when we're out there managing a contractor to make this happen. If there's process, if something goes wrong, we've identified it in there, so our staff will have the ability to react as opposed and have some justification behind their actions as opposed to just winging it. So I think that's important for the council to know. We wanted to do it right, so that's why it's taken a little bit longer. Brooke, who you guys purchasing procurement person, she's been actively involved. We've done some updates also to our contract because of recent legislative actions that we have to do, such as apprentices, those kinds of things. There's a lot of stuff that has been added on.
The
So-
city attorney's been capping on it.
Correct. So, I kind of want to go over costs. It's imperative that the council, and something I just wanted to add to Jay's comment. As we invest in this, there's going to be a progression that he was very correct in that we're going to see a reduction, not necessarily physically, we're not going to get rid of people, but we're going to see a reduction in the use of FTEs with regard to that. You said 2 weeks or whatever it takes
Yeah.
currently to manually
It's not
read.
one FTE in just the water department, then we have a bunch of staff time up in finance too, that we're using. people.
So when we get to this part, where we actually install the meters, now as opposed to getting out of vehicles and doing that, all they have to do is drive by. I had a similar system in Cushman, they just drive by and it automatically, the meters pumping out what the reading is, it grabs it. So you just have to basically drive the entirety of where all your services is. So that's the level of service we're gonna be at when we complete this project, in addition to all the accuracy and everything else that we're gonna get.
How much ARPA funding did we get for this? How much ARPA funding did we get for the 2.7 million?
My understanding, I thought it covered materials.
They covered materials, it was somewhere in the $600,000 range, was the ARPA funding for it. That money had already been spent when we went and bought all the parts with Census.
So we're gonna put another 2 million into this.
1.2 to 1.4 is what I've
Is the
highlighted.
remaining,
Oh,
remaining budget.
2.5 to 2.7 million for a budget, and you just said we got 600,000, but that looks like around another 2 million we're gonna have to put into this.
Total, yeah.
But
Okay.
I think what we're missing is you've spent some money already, in addition to the ARPA money, you spent our money to purchase meters. So that money has been spent, is what I'm trying to express. That 1.2 to 1.4 is only gonna be labor associated with installing the meters.
And so we still have to pay for that.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Yeah.
The meters and everything, all the boxes and everything have been paid.
Yep.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, the original bid, I think when we did this was 1.2 to 1.8. I think 1.2 was the beginning and it was gonna be when it was done 1.8, but we weren't gonna do this all at once. I think ARPA changed that, right? Something,
Provide some more flexibility.
yeah, because we weren't gonna do this all at once. We were gonna do this in stages in the beginning when was first brought to us. And then the ARPA dollars came into effect and that's when, but I remember it was 1.2 to 1.8, depending on what we- what phase we were in.
1.8 to 2.5 to 2.7, and especially if we have to put the bill for that. As just an additional cost that we're gonna have to really owe to our customers.
So the ranges are typically based on, because you don't know how the bids are gonna come. So typically, we will develop our costs on a project based on a range of what the bids may come in. We don't know at the time when we're developing the estimates. I mean, it'd be nice.
In September, when I come to you, the final project cost will be known. It's out to bid right now. So, this is what the engineer is estimating for the completion cost. The water fund and the sewer fund are sharing the cost of this project. Because I build both water and sewer on, through your use. So both funds are sharing the cost of this project. And then,
So I would just raise all the rates as much as we did last year.
water rates went up, sewer rates just went up by inflation, but the water rates went up mostly because we weren't even getting our operations and maintenance costs covered.
But if we didn't need to cover another 2 million, we wouldn't have to raise the rates that high.
We would, half of this is out of the water. So it's a piece of the rates,
It's not-
sure, they wouldn't have gone up maybe quite as much, but
Well,
It seems to me that this.
the rates,
Spending.
the rate study is based on operations, day-to-day operations, and total CIP at the same time. So there's lots of projects with the water fund there, including that CIP.
the reservoirs are big headers.
Including our reservoir work that we put in.
What is our water percentage loss right now?
8% it said on that last page.
Is that eight?
And if we
I
have
saw
brass
it.
meters and it's at 8, we're gonna upgrade the meters to get to what? I mean, we're already below the state standard.
No, actually, last year in the water quality report, that's getting sent out, it's 12.4%. So I'm having issues trying to
Go from 8 to 10.5 over a year.
it's the meters, it's the meters on both sides is some of that. With the well one to high school tank project, we're putting in new consumption meters up there. So I can they're called magnetic meters. We're taking out.
So why don't we start with one side, and see if it works? I mean, historically, some of our programs that we've tried to bring in here haven't been very successful. So why would you want to bang this out on the whole city before you know if it's gonna be effective? I mean, that's a lot of money we're getting ready to invest.
We need to implement this throughout the city because the software that's in the building,
If we just upgraded the old software from the last stuff, why we're gonna get another one?
well, it doesn't have it correct.
So it seems like we're throwing good money after bad money time and time again. That just doesn't sound right to me.
Well, this project was actually approved and budgeted years ago
Absolutely.
by the council.
Yeah, for 1.2, you said. Not-
Well, I think it was 1.2, 1.8, and on
That's what I'm
what stage
saying,
we were
it seems
in.
like a lot of money, especially the amount of water money that we're paying our constituents, including myself, that we're paying for water bills. To add another $2 million on top of that seems like a lot of money.
I just had a thought, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, anyways, we're gonna get, the bids are coming in, we're gonna finalize the project costs with those. And, we'll be back to council, with a resolution, hopefully to award the bid. If the bids come in higher than what we're estimating, then we'll have to talk to you more about either modifying the contract, which we can go eliminate a portion of the contract, to keep it within, budget parameters.
And let's not forget that this project, when it started, the supplies weren't there, so staff installed how many?
500.
500 in-house, we installed
And
500.
while we were waiting for
Yeah,
parts,
perfect.
staff got 500 of them done, yeah.
So we're gonna cut staff hours and contract it out. We could just have the staff continue doing what they're doing, work by neighborhoods.
It didn't work that way, we were only getting 8 meters a week, something like that. And then we would have a water line break or have to go repair something else. You gotta mow the reservoir sites, you have to do water quality checks. And so our staff just aren't available to get on the project.
It would be better, a couple of years.
It took, the last agency I worked for 3 years for staff to get it done, because they kept getting pulled off on other jobs. And, by the time we did the ribbon cutting, they actually were, the census meters, they had changed the transmitters in the software, and they had to go back and put in new transmitters, because the technology got old on them.
So it's happened in 2 years. We're counting this one the last 15 years. We just upgraded the last one about 15 years ago. Now we're gonna do this again in what, every 10 years?
No, I'm sorry, that we haven't upgraded the system since the seventies.
Yeah, but it said Windows Vista was, it was running on.
Software.
Windows Vista was not the
The
same.
actual data collector that they typed, that when I started here, they'd open the box up and they had data collectors, they had 3 of them. That they would punch in the numbers of the actual reading. And we did an update about a year and a half ago to the actual cell phone, so similar software, but I needed the connectivity to the 500 meters I have in. It picks up those readings right now, and then I can go type in the numbers for the ones that I'm opening up right now. So the goal is to get them all so I can read them electronically to reduce errors.
Well, go ahead.
I have a couple questions, but or yours is online, what you're saying, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if this is gonna help with some of the people that get water out of the fire hydrants, some of the private businesses that rent the red, whatever they are.
Meters.
Yeah, and then also the fire department that uses the meters. Is that gonna help with the water shortage? That all is gonna let us know that the fire department's using 50,000 gallons of water on a fire and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the hydrant meters, currently we have brass hydrant meters. We're gonna look at putting transmitters on those also. So we'll get accurate readings of, what they're using on a monthly basis. We bill every 2 months on those, not every month. And then we also have a way where you can go down to the maintenance yard and get a water ticket and fill up there on Pine Street during our working hours. And a lot of people use that where they set up an account and we bill. For the fire department, we can't meter that size of water. I mean, these are massive flows, coming through those engines and pumper trucks and all that. So they estimate the volume and send us a email every time they have a major incident. But we do have contractors that smaller ones that come to town, open up a hydrant and leave. Every year we catch 2 or 3 people doing that, filling up their water trucks illegally. And there's a violation to do that. And
I was shocked that I called Mark one time on a weekend. I go, Mark, there's some guy at the yacht club in a big old truck taking our water. He goes, has he got a red thing on there? And I go, yeah, he goes, he's okay.
Yeah, they have a hydrant meter.
We do,
Yeah.
we check it out, we get a
Yeah.
deposit for the meter, we read it before it goes out, it's read again. Based on our consumption.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. if
Sure.
you're ready. Okay, so somebody had asked me, so right now with the meter reader, it takes 2 weeks or so. Will that meter reader still have a job and plenty to do?
100%, yes.
So that was question number 1. Number 2 is, are we preparing for new builds?
Preparing for new.
Since we're gonna have new developments,
Oh, yeah, yep. Yep.
we have those all ready to go when they move in, or?
The actual meters and all that, well, so we keep those in stock now. So any new house that goes in is putting in the new system.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then the master fee schedule was adjusted a couple years ago. For the new electronic meter and transmitter.
The contractor sets the yoke.
Yep.
If you will, it's what the meter falls into, slips into to register the water. So contractor puts in the service, puts in the yoke, once they get their utility agreement, utility application, and the city sets the meter.
So do we-
Up to an inch and a half.
Sorry.
On the larger meters, we have them buy them and put them in.
So for the developments that are potentially coming in, maybe they're bringing 200 homes in, are we prepared for that with the meters?
Yep.
Got that, okay. And then, I saw your antenna on the tower or on you said maybe a pole. Do we have a way to make sure those don't get damaged, vandals, things like that? How do we protect those?
Yeah, so there's, it's going to be on one of our water sites. It's a fenced yard. And that, we're gonna have security in these yards. We have some grant money that is a project that we're working on. Aaron is sort of next on his list down the road in terms of security upgrades. So we'll have some intrusion detection and that sort of thing at the facility.
That's all I
I
have.
think ultimately you guys, and what I was trying to say with regard to the investment and the steps. When we get to the point where these are installed, we'll have the ability to do the drive-bys like I mentioned. When the antenna gets put up, and I think the initial estimate was for a couple $100,000 for the antenna.
Not even that.
Yeah.
The biggest part is the finance software, that the census software and the Tyler finance team. So we run a Tyler modules upstairs for our finance division. Census needs to integrate with Tyler modules. So the readings can all come in from the antenna, the customer service people can see them at the counter, that sort of thing. So the biggest part is training and
So
software.
that next step, you guys, is where I think you really see the massive benefit to this, because the reality then is you don't have to do the drive-bys anymore. The system, the antenna will read all of that itself, and our staff. And because I'm in that office or around that, I'm hearing the rereads that have to go on, and I'm telling you, we get maybe 1 or 2 a day. I am just being candid. I think, I'm not gonna say all that's gonna go away, but once we get to that antenna point where that's up, they're actually gonna have the ability to shut it off at their computer desk. They don't have to send anybody out there to do that. So when we talk about investing and kind of trying to reduce FTEs with the need, I guarantee you those FTEs that they're gonna be put to work in, we have flushing programs, we have a lot of stuff that we are required to do by DOT. So I just wanted to bring that, make everybody aware of that.
Well, I think when it's fully online, it's gonna benefit the household, because I had in the middle of winter, a double water bill. I go, it's the middle of winter, so city came out and shut everything off, and it was still spinning, and I couldn't find it for the life of me. And then I went into one bathroom, the shower was drip, drip, drip. That drip, drip, drip was like $250 extra. I mean, so if I could find that a little sooner than a month, that would be nice, but,
Councilmember Blush is correct. I mean, the reality is if we got a $700,000 grant, we paid 600,000 out of our own pocket. And then the costs associated with the actual install, we are at about $2 million. That's correct.
But we expect to have a 20-year usable life out of this process, right? And we expect that it's going to free up 1 FTE for other use by the city every year. So it amortizes out to something like $100,000 a year. 1 FTE is going to be freeing up at least $60,000 in usable labor for the rest of the city for the year. So our extended cost beyond that point is about $40,000 a year over the usable life of this system. And we're kind of, based on everything else you've said, we're kind of hitting this point where we can do this, but we have to do something, right? We're losing more water over the years based on the degradation of our metering system. So kind of have to respond to that in some way before we're in violation of DOH standards, correct?
Well, and the other thing that I want to make sure that we're correct on, my understanding is the old meters, because we had similar ones at Cushman, those were all battery operated that we could not change. We actually had to physically change out and I think our old ones are that way.
The old ones don't even have batteries in them, they're brass, they spin.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
They're all analog meters from the '70s.
mechanical.
Yeah, they're all mechanical,
Yikes, okay.
yeah.
And that's the reason why they degrade over time, as far as the accuracy of reading. It's more mechanical reason.
Well, and as Shelton grows, this will be so much more efficient. I mean, because we're barely able to keep up with the amount of people that we have now, right? I mean, it takes 2 weeks or so, right? And then here, there's potential for us to have a lot of growth. What's that gonna take, 3 weeks for a person? What if that person gets sick? I feel like, okay, so Shelton's at the brink of becoming a really bustling community. It's busy now, it's only gonna get busier. Let's not make it harder on ourselves.
I have one question. I heard about a water system in Pennsylvania towards the end of the year last year that was hacked. Do we have a plan for safeguarding for cybersecurity?
Yeah, so the encryption coming through these meters is at the highest standards from census. And I mean, anything can be hacked if they work on it long enough, right? But Census is a global company and they've taken this pretty seriously. And I think what you heard of is their SCADA system was hacked. So that's the telemetry from the pump station to a well to a reservoir. that part of the system was hacked. The actual meter system, I'm not aware of anybody compromising the meter reading system. And it only sends a little blip every couple hours, right? So it's this little transmission and then it's done, and it's a one-way transmission, right? So the odds of something happening there, and it's at the highest encryption level, is probably pretty minimal.
Jay, we looked at different systems. Census is one, that was essentially just one more top, on the market today.
Yeah, we looked at other systems, but we stayed with Census because that's the software that we're currently using and the meters that we're currently using. And we didn't want to navigate to a whole different software system. We're looking at Badger and some others.
Yeah.
But we decided to stay with the brand that we're operating now,
And Census is a
Global.
top of the line,
They are
essentially.
top of the line,
Yeah.
yeah.
Will this change billing? Are we still gonna send out the bills to be, or are we gonna bill in the house? Don't we?
Oh, we'll still have to print bills out
out-
of office.
Okay.
But you'll be able to read your bill online.
Yep.
Right, when that's in place, you can see real time.
Everybody has to do this, you guys, so I just wanna make you aware of that. Cushman, we're required, we have a legal mandate, they had to actually take out a loan for $6 million, they had about 2,900 customers, because none of their stuff was metered, and they're still paying that loan, so.
So they didn't have any meters
They
when
had
they started the project?
It was even worse, it was like 2016, and they weren't even looking, and DOH said, either you put these in, or we're gonna shut your water system down. So, and I understand what you're saying, because, but the reality is that the DOH mandates that are coming down as far as flushing, and it's only getting worse for us as the implementers, so just so that you're aware of that, and I agree with you, it's a lot of money, but the reality is that I think we're in a lot better shape than a lot of other water
Right.
purveyors.
Well, I wanna be ahead of the bus on this, so when those new rules come down from DOH, we'll already be like, oh, we got this in place, you know what I mean?
It's just not DOH either. I mean,
Right.
we just went through the Hearst decision, which was pretty would have been destructive for counties, and if that were to come back in any form, at least we're ahead of the game. We're watching our water. We're knowing if we're lost and if there's leaks, we're catching it early, because, water is a pretty big deal.
We're defensible at
Yes.
least, right? We
Yes.
have our quantities we're pulling out of the ground, we have our
Yeah.
quantities that's being consumed,
Yeah.
hopefully we can reduce the quantity of loss, but at least we can defend it and
Yeah.
get where we're at.
Correct.
I'm in favor of the efficiencies, not just in saving the water, but also for saving the labor. Also, I'm really in favor of modernizing. There's a lot of old stuff here in this town that we have deferred maintenance on for way too long. And if we have the position to do it, we need to start modernizing everything here in town. And as well, we need to increase the supply of water, the quality of water. Everything that has to deal with water, we need to increase if we want to grow in this town and make this a vibrant place. So anything that has to do with water that increases the quantity and the quality, I'm for it. I say bring it, and I say if we need to find the money somewhere, somehow, then, we're gonna go and get it, because water is the key to everything that we do here in the city, and we should eliminate any roadblocks to providing clean and usable water for our citizens.
Yeah, we're gonna cut costs somewhere, I don't think it should.
All right, any other questions for staff?
Would this qualify for a grant like through the EPA for the drinking water SRF or anything like that? Is there another grant we could use to get the money for this? So we don't have to put the whole bill on the rest of it?
Yeah, it could be, the state, typically they send you into the revolving loan fund and they want to talk about loan first. And with the interest rates and that sort of thing, we're better to cash fund something like this.
Yeah, they're more focused on water rights and that stuff, a bigger picture, saving water for fish, that kind of stuff.
Okay, moving on to the next added subject, C2, and City Manager Mark Ziegler has information for us.
I'm gonna
Oh.
defer to Community Economic Development Director Jay Hill, who should be logging in here and sharing the screen so we can view the same graphics together.
I am on, and let me get this shared.
Hey, Sammy, I got some haircuts.
Okay. Wait, are you guys seeing my, let me turn this off too. Maybe I
Yes,
can.
we can see it.
Looks like clouds over a parking lot.
It's one way to describe it. Okay, so we took like a really transparent image background and tried to draw some white lines over it. So I apologize if it's hard to see on the screen in the council chambers, but we reached out to SCJ, who we have on call doing transportation engineering for us, and they helped us develop a Coda Street restriping plan. As you'll remember, a couple weeks ago, I came to you guys to talk about all of the improvements we're planning on doing on Coda Street in advance of both the Shelton Art Walk and the subsequent Shelton Creative District, where we're trying to, you know, give Coda a second street downtown for pedestrian activity and whatnot. One of the best ways we can do that is by traffic calming and providing additional parking, including ADA parking, which we desperately need in our downtown. We have very few publicly available ADA stalls, especially along Coda and Railroad, where the bulk of our pedestrian activity occurs. So I just wanted to run through our proposed plan real quick. And this is the striping plan as designed by a civil engineer that works for SCJ. And he did this in coordination with myself, Jay Harris, Kenny Ober, a couple of other people on staff. And so the idea, this is starting just right out in front of the Civic Center. So this is the Civic Center parking lot here. And the idea is to alternate angle-in parking on various blocks. And then we're using essentially paint to shift the road out of the center line alignment and the current parallel parking, the parallel parking that we have currently, and change it to the 60-degree angle in. So the idea is by painting around the bulb outs and restriping down the center of the street, we shift the traffic pattern. So on this block, the 500 block that moves to the north, we have a 10-foot travel lane here and then a 13-foot travel lane on the south side, which will allow for any overhang off of the parking stalls that we have indicated here. And these are standard parking stalls, 19 feet long. And again, there's a little bit of overhang for any particularly long vehicles. And so this reserves these kind of shaded areas that can be used for, street trees, ADA access to the ADA stalls, so we don't have to cut any new ramps into the sidewalks. It's within the distance to use the existing ADA ramp curbs. So that was something that we thought was really important, was minimizing our cost, but also providing additional accessible parking. So then moving on to the next block, which is in front of the new paver parking lot and the Baptist Church. We move the parking to the north side so the road shifts. And we have as we did on the other one, we have these sharrows indicated that this is also intended for bike traffic. And the intent is also to have advisory speed signs here to let people know there's a 15-mile-an-hour advisory curve. And so we're not lowering the speed limit. You could still do the full standard 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on the straightaway here. But we're just advising people to slow down as they navigate the intersections, which will help with people who are trying to cross, pedestrians, with people who are backing out of stalls, which people who are using the ADA ramps, all that kind of stuff. The slower speed around the intersections is going to prevent accidents. It's really just meant to slow down for safety, and also slowing down for visual interest. As you're going slower, you'll see, oh, there's a business there. I never knew that was there before. Or, oh, that's really cool. Let's stop and look at this public art, or let's, stop and get a cup of coffee or something. The slower traffic speeds on Coda are intended not just for safety, but also for placemaking purposes. And then moving along to the next block, it's kind of, sorry, hold on, it's sticking. Try the page down button. There we go. So moving along in front of Telecare, again, we're shifting the parking spaces back to the south side of the street, including retaining a loading zone here for Telecare, which uses that, and maintaining their access through their driveway here. Also providing an ADA stall, which can use the ramp, which is, again, that's a legal use of ADA stalls without having to impact the parking, or sorry, the sidewalk. And then also these shaded areas from the 400 block on are the areas where we're going to be putting the planters that we put on order. We have these 18-inch stone planters. I think I showed you pictures last time. And we're going to put some street trees in. So this is, allowing us to get some street trees along Coda without having to tear up the sidewalk, tear up the roads. And we can use these shaded areas to accomplish some of that. And then moving along to in front of Marmo Gallery. So Marmo Gallery is right here. The food bank is here, Saints Pantry, sorry, and Mason County Journal is right here. So again, we're shifting, the traffic is going to be on the north side, just right here. We are reserving this area here. It's 2 parking spaces worth of parking. Marmo has a request in for outdoor dining on Coda. Anybody who's maybe tried to get a cup of coffee in front of the cafe and gallery right now knows it's pretty shady during good parts of the day, and they want something that's out in the sun and a little bit more visible. So we'll have the ADA space, we'll have the planters on each end of the block, and again, they're only 18 inches tall, so they won't interfere with sight lines or traffic or anything like that. They'll be low, and they're only 36 inches wide, so they'll be out of the way as well. And then we'll have the sidewalk dining down the middle, and anybody along this entire length of street, if they wanted to do the same thing, they could submit for a right-of-way permit and have some space for sidewalk dining or street side dining as well. If anybody's been to where is it in Ballard on Ballard Way, the entire street is now essentially this street side dining with permanent little structures and everything. We're not planning permanent structures, but at least we'll have some temporary availability and try to get a little more pedestrian activity out on the street. And then finally, we end up down here at the intersection of Coda and First. This is where the stoplight is. We retain access for the driveway here. And again, we have the space for the planter box. We have the ADA accessible stall. And this is a net gain of parking spaces down the entire length of the project. So we're adding more parking, we're adding ADA parking, we're slowing traffic, we're adding street trees, and we're doing it all for a really reasonable price. So that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions or, pan back up to different parts of the document or anything like that if anybody wants to know more or has any more questions.
So you said there's a net gain of parking spots, but how many?
After the reconfiguration, because we've had a couple of different rounds of this, across all 5 blocks, we pick up about 8 parking spaces right now total. And that includes the addition of the ADA spaces as well.
And you said low cost, but you didn't say what the costs are.
The cost of paint and the planter boxes, really. So it's just the matter of putting paint on the ground, as opposed to if we were doing something that required curbing and excavation and stormwater improvements and $1 million street reconstruction. This is just a couple $1,000s worth of paint. I don't have the exact cost of how much paint that's going to be just yet, but it's a pretty minimal amount.
All right, questions? Comments?
At some point, would 20-mile-per-hour zone make sense? Like 20 is plenty, so we can slow down traffic and let people have time to visualize things, and then maybe go park and slow down. Sticking in the long term.
Yeah, we actually looked at that, Counselor, that the issue is the curves at each intersection get a little larger. The radiuses are set for 15 miles an hour right now. And it comes in and you eliminate a parking stall on each end potentially if you go to 20 miles an hour. So that was one of our considerations. But we thought that we, would advise 15 and take the radiuses a little tighter and gain a couple stalls that way.
But overall, it could be lower, the 25 limit could be lower to 20 and still have the 15.
As an
And
advisory.
still have the 15 advisory.
Yeah, that's what I
meant, yeah.
Okay.
It could,
Yeah.
could be.
And I mean, the alternative would even be to just make the entire street 15 without the advisories, and just make it posted 15. But that's we thought that, this would help with traffic flow a little bit better, because our primary concern is pedestrian safety at the corners and at the intersections, more than anything. So I mean, the ability to lower the speed limit is there. We just chose the advisory as our proposal.
And so one of the thought patterns there is on when we go and do the permanent plan, which will have stormwater facilities, maybe some wider sidewalks, integral street trees that aren't in planters are actually in the ground. That sort of thing is likely put in traffic calming devices. That could be some raised intersections, raised crosswalks, that sort of thing. Adjust speed to 15 and put some permanent traffic control devices in.
If it's successful here, would we do it on other streets downtown, or would we limit it to Coda and Arts District?
I think that's an open discussion, certainly.
So the curvature in the road, you guys, that actually serves as a traffic calming mechanism. There's a similar example out there by Amazon on Highway 3. You'll see the road kind of curves like that, physically have to slow down in order to make that curve. So that is a traffic calming mechanism to actually move them out like they're doing there.
So the striped improvements will likely be curbing and stormwater planters with greeneries and trees and that sort of thing. So the product 5 years from now would likely look similar to this, but obviously be permanent type of facilities.
Have we considered the fact that FTD is right here and the lot often they have to go down that way? And you're gonna have people backing out, and then you're gonna have officers who are going to hurry to get to their call. Have we considered that?
That is a consideration, right? You have parallel parking people that are slowing them down also. So, the lights are on, and if it turns out to be a big problem, they might have to go down another street. Luckily, we have a good grid system, right?
There's multiple ways out, yes, we considered that, talked to PD. They can head straight out to railroad from Fifth here as well, and then take a left on Coda. If they're heading west, that's one block of this configuration they hit.
Right. Anybody? All right,
And did you go with the lighting plan? I wasn't at your last study session. You talked about the lighting and the other elements of this.
I did talk about, the rest of that. Do we have a status on the lighting? Have we backed out the holes yet?
Yeah, so we removed the concrete panels where the poles are gonna go. And I think they're gonna be out next week to set the facilities. We got a vector out at the same day or the day before. I don't want to leave a hole with a plate over for very long. So anyways, our street division is coordinating with PUD to get the project completed.
And that'll be the 4 new streetlights plus the guy wires for the catenary lights and some restringing of some power lines and accessory lines down that street. So it's definitely going to clean up.
Yes,
and make it.
and I'll get you a project update by the end of the week.
All right, any questions about that? All right. So moving on.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Jay. JJ and Aaron. Does the council have any new items for discussion tonight? Nope. This study session is adjourned at 6:59 PM.